Resume by Emma Curtis Hopkins. Practice book for the 12 lessons in high mysticism. Chapter 11, Ministry. This is Friday's afternoon study. Commit these Bible verses to memory. And they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God, and the ruby was thy covering. My judgment was unto me a robe. A king that sitteth in the throne of judgment scattereth away evil with his eyes. God is judge himself. Their judgment shall proceed of themselves. I will make my judgment to rest for a light. All the heathen shall see my judgment. In the 11th year was the house finished. Chapter 11, Ministry. In the 11th year was the house finished, and Solomon said that whosoever should look to the house would be set at liberty. House signifies character. A man's judgment constitutes the sum total of his character. A good judge is more sought unto than a king, for he establishes right relations, man with man. Something about right appeals. Even an infant weeps at injustice and stops weeping when justice is rendered. One with right judgment, according to the Jesus Christ of himself, knows instantly what to do to heal the sick man, or raise the dead man, or help the disheartened. All the voluntary practices of the presence of God which we are making have been the inspirations of such as have beheld their heavenly Father's countenance, till they knew that whatever they themselves did was right, and they could see that whatever was happening outwardly had back of it and over it some wonderful blessing. They did not have to scramble and pull things and events into order. By citing the trend, or the providence, or the fiat, and seeing the finished fact, they accomplished mighty things. St. John of the Cross plowed twice as many furrows as any other of the monks, because his eye was on the finished land of God. The whole creation is finished, complete, now in the eyes of God. To see for 3 seconds a thing in its completeness, as it truly is to find the thing acting of its own weight to exhibit itself to everybody as complete. Dr. Gordon of Boston wrote about the new healing as a process of seeing a strong arm where a withered one claimed to exist, as Jesus cried with a loud voice to the living Lazarus. Whatever we see with the inner eye comes by and by to the outer eye. Everywhere we look, a finished objective faces us. It is the thing as God sees it. Why dost thou show me iniquity? Cried Habakkuk. Therefore doth judgment never go forth from me. It is the angel of repose between God and man to see as God sees. Is he not too pure to behold iniquity? The Mohammedan Caliph Ali found that every man's lot or portion in life is seeking him, or looking toward him. He called upon us to be at rest from seeking our good. It is in straight line with us. We can pray as if we had received, for here it is, no matter what it is we have asked for. Pray as if ye had received. Believe that ye receive, said Jesus, and ask what ye will, he said. Judgment is communicable. Rai Shaligram, a postmaster in northwestern India, saw that divine providence was under his feet and moving along with him. It was so real to him that he concluded to go away from his good business and let himself be fed without doing anything at all. Providence would always take good care of him, he said. No one could look at the light burning in the upper chamber of his house without feeling that he also could give up his business and be a wanderer, fed by universal good. Notice how the mothers of India threw their babies into the Ganges because their dervishes held the fixed judgment that it was pleasing to God to drown infants. Notice how the Shunammite woman said her child was well because she saw Elisha's face, and his judgment laid its steadying words of life on her heart. So we catch God judgment from the face of God. Many seek the ruler's face, but every man's judgment cometh from the Lord, said Solomon. We have generally caught only prejudices, notions, what Jeremiah called foxes across Mount Zion. We will take Friday to stop throwing any estimates out over people. We will let the finished good of them declare itself to us. By this stopping of thoughts engendered by associating with downward watching men, the Son of God faces us and all men, and his judgment and our judgment is one judgment. The 11 stars did obeisance to Joseph. This means that every estimate falls down into nothingness before the God estimate. Joseph means he will add. That is, he will add to life as it now stands, a life by a miracle of God. He will add to gold as it now stands, riches by the miracle of God. Joab told David not to count his army. God shall add unto the people 100-fold, how many soever they may be, he said. But David's own judgment was hot within him, and Joab's words were unheeded. So there was disaster in Jerusalem. To let the ark move forward is to let the great trend alone, to rest, because it is finished. In earing time and harvest thou shalt rest, for God shall bring forth thy judgment as the noonday. The 11th was the jacinth, the red rubellate, pushing red to its acme of perfection. It is the priceless ruby, emblem of priceless judgment. Beauty is another word for judgment. Beauty is poise, balance, as judgment is balance. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God hath shined. According to thy judgment it is well with me, therefore it is well. According to thy judgment it is well with all men, therefore it is well. End of chapter 11. So this chapter is obviously all about judgment. It is about taking Friday afternoon and not judging people. We don't want to throw our downward gaze on other people. We want to just stop judging their human condition altogether, because first of all, it's not our place to judge anybody. We don't know what their experiences have been. We don't know their path. So we have to just let go of that kind of judgment altogether. And Friday's a good day to practice that. Of course, eventually we want to practice that every day. But it's really important to see people in the light of God, in the light of truth. And it's wrong for us to cast a shadow on them and judge them according to seeming appearances. It's not our place to do that. And Emma says that right judgment is basically like the underlying principle of all your actions in life. You know, if you judge according to righteous principles or the truth of God, then it doesn't matter what happens, where you go, what you do. everything's going to work out. Because conditions have a way of arranging themselves according to the consciousness of the observer. So if you have a good, strong consciousness, then everywhere you go, things are going to arrange themselves in a perfect manner, because you evoke those kind of things out of conditions, out of people. So right judgment has a way of making conditions right, just by its own atmosphere. You don't have to try to do anything. And that's when also Emma's really making a point to say that we don't have to labor, we don't have to work at this. It's nothing like that. This is like resting and allowing it to be done. So it's a law in itself that right judgment causes right conditions. It's like the same as cause and effect. It's about the law. So we don't have to make the law work, it just works. All we have to do is have right judgment. And the way to have right judgment is to understand spiritual principles and live by them.